First quarterly meeting with the town of Berlin and the fire department and EMS. The purpose of this meeting is for the fire department and EMS to provide information to the public as to their status. Hopefully, when we get along in the budget progress, we won't have those hindrances like we have had in previous years. So we look forward to hearing your status.
So, got an email yesterday to come up with like a discussion bullet points, because I just had notes on paper, so we'll just start and very informal, we'll jump around, whatever we can try to do, but want to try to have some sort of format to it. So, as you just mentioned, Vice President Burrell is the budget for next year, so we'll jump right to that, come right to that. So we have talked several times. This goes all the way back to when the town had Matrix come in, and it goes back to the spreadsheet that I provided you and all the council members is what the town is funded. Really, the chart shows FY12, but the note to the right, FY08 to 12 was the same amount of money, $342,000. The study that was done came up with $200,000 for operating and $150 for capital, and that is what the town did fund back in FY15 and 16. $200,000 for the operating and $150 for the capital, and then as you can see, it changed. The capital went away, and we just got into the operating up to our current fiscal year, 200 of FY24, $200,000 in operating, and then we realized that we still, now that we have the grant, we will address the ARPA funds in the next probably 60 days. The fire companies give direction to the administration of what we're supposed to do. And we will get that to you. I'm going to tell you, it will be within 30 or 60 days. We'll get that to you. So we'll cut right to the chase. You can expect the FY24-25 budget request to be $200,000 for operating and $150 for capital. So that works. The $200,000 operating, of course, there'll be a budget presentation like we always do, but we're telling you right up front, so that way you can, look ahead and plan for that. And then I have
capital 150.
150 for capital, and again, that is substantiated by the study that was done, and that study we know is old, so there'll have to be adjustments done at some point. But we're giving you plenty of notice, 9 months, I guess.
But Dave, and Steve, I would like to ask that if I'm not being gentle enough this evening, can you let me know?
Yeah, sure.
Is that half for the season?
Studies are studies, but we need actual stuff. We need for you to come in here and say to us, this is our assets, this is our operating and our capital, and this is what we need from the town. Now, you sit here and said what you need from the town, but you need to back that up, and backing that up is not with just a statement. It is your ongoing operation. This is what we are looking for, and the public. Everybody know that you fellas do a fantastic job. You fellas provide a most needed service for the public, and I know the public is grateful. I remember when your guys came to my father-in-law's house and picked him up, and how professional they were, and how appropriate the equipment they had was. But with this funding thing, the town of Berlin and the residents need to know what your assets are, what your operating is, and what you need. Now, I don't think that is an unreasonable request. When we provide grants to any folks, that's the information they bring to us.
And you'll be getting that, and we provide that, so you'll be getting that. I just met with the accountant this week, have an appointment, so as per the contract, by September 30th, you will have the closeout of the year, assets, liabilities, expenses, revenue, you'll get that, and it has a year-to-year comparison, so you will get that. And it's detailed out by account, and as I just said earlier, you know, as the officers come in the spring, you'll get the same presentation where we sit down and the chief says XYZ is due for replacement, and then you can ask questions to him or her what that XYZ thing is.
Now, that's the purpose, I thought, that's the purpose of these quarterly meetings. And when I talked about hindrances in the budget process, not having those this year, I'm thinking, as you provide this information, we'll all get to be on the same page. We will all get to be on the same page with the same understandings of what you have and what you need. And I think that's where we need to be.
I also thought there was some confusion over the purpose of these meetings. I thought we were getting away, in order to accommodate your schedule, the meeting on Monday nights, which you guys were always rushed to do, that everything would be done here. So it was kind of a dual purpose meeting. We would discuss your needs, go over your specific agenda. In addition, we would do the financial analysis that you provided.
So we would take
be
this.
4 meetings a year, and that's it, and we could get all the work done.
And we can certainly do that, so I'll answer it. I'm making notes in order I was asked. So I just wrote down December meeting. So in the December work session meeting, we can go over any questions and answers on those reports that you're going to get on September 30th, if that's what you'd like us to do. I wrote it right down, so that'll be on that agenda. And if there was a miscommunication, we had no problem with the public quarterly meetings. You all control the dais and the agenda. We like those quarterly reports. Yes, it is another night for us, but that's a public meeting, usually more well-attended, and the public gets to see exactly what you said, Mr. Burrell, the calls for service, the budget variances in a summary format. And the reason we said the work sessions couldn't be the same night is your agenda is pretty full. And I know you've had some controversy with it, we don't have to talk about that. And you're tired at the end of the night.
Yes, because at 9 o'clock I shut off.
Yeah, well, we all do. You worked a long day, or even if you're retired, that time of night. So that was the quarterly, so we could sit here in the informal session and do that. We still would like to give the, and that's what the contract says, the public quarterly report during one of your regular meetings. So the public understands that. And this is the meat and potatoes, I guess, if you want to say.
Now you said something, about your presentation being in summaries. But we need more than a summary. We need detail. We need detail, and we would like to be, and we would like for you to be as detailed as possible. Because don't forget, Dave, it is your responsibility to have us and the public understand what your need is. And I think by being as detailed as possible, you can get that done.
Yeah, I think that's why we like these meetings, the meat and potato meetings that we're having.
Yeah, meat and potato.
Yeah, so,
To provide the meeting.
so in December, like I said, I just put it, that'll be the number one on the agenda is review the finances. You will have had them, whatever date we pick, you'll have had them for a period of time to generate your questions. That way we can be prepared with answers. If there's a certain category that you have an answer, or a certain thing that the chief needs to explain why that has to be bought.
So I have a question, I don't mean to cut you off. My question is, with the finance reports, with these documents that we're receiving, what won't be on them? What won't we be able to see?
What
Do you,
won't
is
be on
it, yeah. I mean, because I know we're asking for everything. We want to see the
It's-
itemized, detailed breakdown of expenditures. And I'm asking you, according to what you all do with your accountant, what is it is there something that we're not going to be, that you know of right now that we're not going to be able
There's
to see?
there's nothing that can be redacted from the financial
Okay, so
statements
I'm
because
just-
they match our tax forms.
Okay.
And that's why some people have asked about why the accounts are labeled like they are, like occupancy cost. That, our financial software matches our tax form. If it doesn't, then that's more work that somebody's got to, this category and that category.
Right, so.
But nothing is
so we're
redacted.
going
Mr.
to-
Berge doesn't redact anything.
So we're
from
going
the
to see
statements.
that's what I'm asking. What we're going to receive is what you would present at the end of the year, the end of the year to the IRS. That's what, I'm
Right.
asking that because I feel
And that's been
like,
every year.
that's what we've been asking, is that,
So you're talking about like breakdown of specific expenses, like if you want to see how much what the detail is on supplies, where all that money went, you could provide that. Is that what you're
So
asking?
you,
I'm asking-
so you
I'm-
want,
I'm
you want to
bas-
get down to, we wrote the check to Joe Blow for
Well,
XYZ widget.
well, I assumed, and tell me if I'm wrong in this, I assumed that when we got when we got the financials, it would have the breakdown of, it would be what I would have gotten had my business did a QuickBooks printout, because when I do Quick, or whatever, we use QuickBooks at my house
And that's
for our
what, that's
business.
the printout that you get.
So when my husband does
every
that,
quarter.
bloop, everything that we've spent and that time period shows.
And that's what we give you every
That's-
quarter. We print out a QuickBooks, we go to the profit and loss, our income statement, and we pick the quarter, and we print it. The only
Okay.
thing that we preface that with when we send that to you is that's not been analyzed by our accountant, and sometimes, depending on the timing, it's not really been analyzed by us. We all are human and make a mistake. So you write a check to X company for office supplies, and the next month you write a check to X company, and it happens to jump over to be a computer, and somebody forgets to change that expense account.
Yeah.
That might not get caught on your quarterly report, but this time of the year, when we're doing our review, Mr.
Yeah.
Berge, it's going to be caught and be in the correct category. Most definitely, we cannot have our tax form.
I think it also depends on how finely they nail the subcategories down. And then this is just an example, I
Yeah,
can't
exactly,
speak
right.
to exactly what it is, but for instance, you might have a category that reads vehicle expense, and it can include everything from parts to car
Right.
washes to fuel.
For sure.
And so you're not gonna get down to that fine detail unless you're subcategorizing under that.
But I think if we're getting these reports in advance of our meeting,
Yeah.
we have a question on one of those expenditures, we can email you and say, hey, can we have more detail?
I'll
Well,
just
and you're going to
making
get
sure
them,
that there's-
because the contract says we have to get them a week earlier. And there's nothing saying that you can't ask us a question 3 weeks after our meeting. I mean, there's
Well, you
supposed
want
to
to
be
have it
open
available for the public.
for the public, but if you came up with a question, we don't have to be so regimented that you can't talk to each other.
Dave, so I just,
So, but Mary, I like how you explained that's
Yeah.
correct. And because we don't operate with you all we're on a contract basis, and we don't operate with you on a budget basis, meaning if we run over in office supplies, we don't come running up to town hall or treasurer and say I'm $10 in office supplies, we need to have a contract amendment for $10.
But at the same time,
But the categories,
we
you all
need
see.
to understand that runover.
And that's what we do on the quarterly.
Because the next year's coming,
Yep.
yeah.
So, okay, that's why we're here to talk.
Dave,
Go ahead.
well, so I just wanted to say, first, kind of thanks for throwing out the 350, because I've been asking you for the past fiscal year what that is for the fire company side, to be, I say comfortable, but that's probably not the right word. My question is, how does that, are you, I'm not disagreeing with the number, but how does that apply to because I believe the fire company has, their 40% of their calls are in town, and then 60% of the EMS. So how did, I guess what I'm asking is, did you have a formula that kind of arrived? Because right now we are about 120, which I believe is around, which would equate to 40% of your funding now. So I'm just asking for clarity on how you got to the 350.
So, on the operating, it was based upon the study and live data. As you all if you go back and look at your packet from April, it'll have all those. It basically, what it does, it fills the void of what we do not get from the county. So we get, in my head, and I was gonna bring it down, I don't wanna jump around, but the funding that we get from the county is $250,000 flat. It's actually 3 cents on the tax dollar. It got changed, but it equates to 3 cents on the tax dollar, divided by all the companies, so $250 plus $1,000 for every call out of town. So, to answer your operating question, it balances our budget. That's the only way we can tell you, just like any contractor, any other contractor, your electrician or your blacktop. Oh, I thought I changed that too. Sorry.
That's okay.
I apologize.
Is that the
for
pizza company?
It's probably somebody with car warranty.
So I guess thank you for that. I think I got
So if you want to do the percentages, I'll be glad to take that sheet and do those for you. Be glad to. Or we could add another column to that.
Does the county give you
spreadsheet.
capital for the fire company?
It is all together. It's our responsibility to.
It's all in that 250.
It's
So
all-
that, and that's their flat to you.
Right.
And and the town of Berlin makes up the difference, is what you said.
Well, in the operating, so we don't get confused, in the operating, we do the budget, and then we plug in, what we're short is what we plug in for the town. I guess if that makes sense to you, we do our budget, and whatever the deficit is, the only place to go is the town. So we do our budget that way, and that's been done since prior to me.
So, I mean, this might be jumping around a bit.
And it does equate a lot of times to, if you do 250 and 200, we can do that in our heads, it's not 50%, so it's probably 60/40, I don't know what's the math, and we take time to do it, that's what we're here to do. So go ahead while I'm calculating.
I guess, well, my other question was, because we're dealing with the fire side. Should this, I don't know how to say this, should the 350 happen in the budget, we'll say it that way, would that also allow the fire company to not, because a concern has been the response fee that was applied earlier this year. Are you still doing that?
We are,
Okay. If this were to happen, would that be not needed?
that would probably not need it, so I'll go into order your question, so I just did the math.
I know, I'm a little worried.
I just did the math, and
Okay.
if you did 250 county
Uh-huh.
and 200 town, that's 44% to the town, and we're running about 40% of the calls in town. So we're 4%.
Okay.
But then there's the capital side.
So then
And
the
then, well, yeah,
capital,
just the oper-
so
then the
the
cap-
capital, and the capital, so I answer your question there, what we did, and because our accountant, you're watching this too, is the reason we started the billing for service is because we were not getting enough operating funds from the town to balance our budget and provide the service. So he brought that back to the membership, And since the town is not providing capital at this time, any money we get from our billing for service is going to go in our capital apparatus fund. So we are still billing, and the reason we're billing is we have, which is number 2, I'll go over the loan, capital.
So the fee that the response fee is currently going to your capital.
As of July 1st.
As of July
yeah.
1. So that's not in your ops, that's going to capital.
And the reason of the change is because the mayor and council approved $200,000 for operating. So that allowed us to revise our budget, go back to the fire chief and the building, house committee, various committees, and balance the budget at the normal operating.
So not to put words in your mouth, what I feel like I'm hearing is, if this $350,000 overall budget is not approved, if operations still receives $200,000 and capital receives $75,000, this fee that we're talking about could possibly still exist to to balance the difference in the 150 versus getting the full amount. So it's possible that this fee could still happen.
You're correct.
Okay.
So I'm going to touch on one quick thing. We're talking a lot about the capital apparatus, and I'm sure David's going to touch on it. 2016, we bought our ladder truck.
Mhm.
If I had to replace that ladder truck today, it would be almost double the cost of what we paid in 2016. I just talked to a fire chief from Alabama that just bought a truck very similar to the one that we have, made by the same company, 500 gallons of water, 75-foot ladder, and it was $1.5 million to buy that fire truck. In 2016, we paid what, 700 and 800, somewhere in that ballpark?
Around 800, yeah.
Just to give you an idea, I mean, I know inflation and everything else, turnout gear, in the last 3 years that I've been buying turnout gear, it has gone, and when I say turnout gear, I'm talking the coat and the pants. I'm not talking the gloves, the helmets, the pager, everything else that we give somebody. But just in the 3 years that I've been buying this stuff, we've gone up almost $500 a set. A coat, and when I say a set, I'm talking coat and pants. So I know we're all experiencing the inflation and everything else, but it's just important to understand that nothing's getting cheaper.
So that's a nationwide issue.
It is.
As you described.
It is.
So obviously, every town can't just instantly come up with money to cover that. So what are fire companies doing to,
There are a lot of fire companies that are doing without.
but like you mentioned this one in Alabama, was it?
Mhm.
So how did they pay for that?
They went to their town, and the town gave them half of what they needed. Half of what they needed. And they wrote them a one-time check, half of what they needed.
And where'd the other half come from?
I assume, I didn't get into finances, but I would assume it's very similar department the way we run. They run county, they run town, they run a little bit of everything, so the other half, I guess, maybe county funds or something like that. I didn't discuss a lot of it.
So I've got to ask you, when things like this come up, I know you say the county funds you guys at a flat 250, right? So when things, I feel like I sound like the mayor when I say that. Jesus, he like, right? So the county,
She's feverish.
oh my God, the county is funding you at 250. When things like this arise, is there no room, there's no way to, because I know that you reach out to the town as far as, listen, we've got to get this fire truck, or this thing has to happen, and we need an additional blank, blank, blank. There's no way at all that these guys, the county, can assist in that manner?
Solid.
So that is part of our strategic planning committee that we have with the county. And we've talked about that with them. But to answer your question, no, currently there is not. The same thing with the town. You allot something in your budget, it's awarded as a contract to us as a fee for service. And what happens. If we have 5 breakdowns, we let you know in the quarterly report, but we don't say we need X, Y, or Z with a dollar sign in front of it. Same thing with the county. We let the commissioners know, they get the same reports. They get the financial reports, and They expect the 10 fire companies to be stewards of those funds, to have contingency funds, and manage their funds, put money away for capital, and
No, I hear you, but
Do
take me back a little bit. I think, was it this year when something happened? It's, again, I think I must have called from Mr. Burrell too, because my brain is fogging up and it's only 6:30. But earlier this year, something went awry and there was something that was needed. And we had to dig a little bit to make sure that you had. Is there ever a time when those things happen? And I can't even pull it out of my left leg right now. But you know what I'm talking about? You're the details
Wasn't
guy.
there equipment and paid out?
Something happened, and there was extra money that was needed, and we moved this and this
Wow.
to make it happen. Is there ever a time, you know what I'm saying, when those things
I don't,
arise?
the town's never done that to us, and no, you've never done that. Once our contract is done, we've never done any contract amendment. Now, what you did at your budget time, you moved some funds for operating, but that was for normal operating. But no, we've never come up here and got a check. And the biggest thing that I can think of in last fiscal year, and I'm pretty sharp on it because I'm getting quizzed by the accountant,
Yeah.
it is the breakdown of the engine. And 2 engines, we put a transmission in one engine, and this other engine has had a pump/transmission. And we just report that at the quarterly. We didn't make a request for funds, and the town did not give us additional funds.
I think Shanika could be referring to, it was either some type breathing apparatus or
It was, we talked about it, I believe, a split contract, right, where there was going to be
Yes.
a contract end date and some funds were taken out
Correct.
of.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yes, there you go.
Okay.
We had originally presented a contract that ended in
March.
February or March, somewhere in that
Right.
timeframe. Because,
Right, a
you know, we were
a
requesting
6-month
200,
contract.
right, the request was for 200,000, it was approved, and I'm throwing a random number,
Yeah, yeah.
115,000.
Yeah,
And we kind of figured it out that was about 7 months of what we asked for, so that was the contract. And then you guys did take some of the money out of the ARPA fund that was set aside, to balance the
Yeah.
budget out for us.
yes,
I
there
believe
you
that's
go.
right.
Let me
So
say.
these are all good questions.
Let me say that I have always believed in equitable funding of our fire department and EMS. But at the same time, it is your responsibility to have us understand and have the public understand. And one thing you got to share is how Station 3 fits in all of the scheme of things. We just,
Station 3 is something that was, and correct me if I'm wrong, Station 3 is something that was started almost 20 years ago. We saw the development that was starting out there.
I don't need an explanation now. But
Okay.
as we going forward, we need, and the public need to understand how Station 3, and when I say Station 3, I'm talking about its operation and being fits into all of this funding
The
stuff.
grand scheme of the fund.
Because you cannot imagine the number of times I have received from folks that the town of Berlin money goes out on East 50. And I said, that's not the way things happen. That is not the way the fire department operates. So not only do we need to understand, the public needs to understand. And listen, I would want, now I'm just talking for myself now, I would want to fund the fire department and EMS at 100% of what you all have determined the town of Berlin's portion is. But you have to explain that to more than us, because we are responsible and we are accountable to the public. So when I get those questions about Station 3 and that kind of stuff, I'll be able to say to those folks, that's not the way it is. This is what it is, and this is what it takes for Station 3, and this is where the town of Berlin money is being used for the benefit of the citizens of the town of Berlin. And you keep talking about contract and that type of things. I'm a little naive, but I believe that when you have two entities moving toward the same way, yes, we may have a contract. That's just to keep us on track. But if our intentions are to be on track and be on the same page, that contract becomes not something that is referred to as this is my responsibility and this is what I got to do, as a guide. And I really do want to move in that way. The softer, gentler way.
Explain Station 3, how we operate, how 608 gets out.
We don't need to do that now. We don't need to do that now, but that needs to be
Prepare an operational
included.
breakout of just Station 3.
That needs to be included.
So one thing I'd like to just throw out there is a overall, whether it's Station 3, Station 2, or Main Street Firehouse right here. When we plan for things and we plan for the future, we don't look at our apparatus, we don't look at our stations as in town, out of town, things like that. We look at the overall common goal. The Exxon gas station was a recent fire that we recently had. The fire engine from Station 3 was the first one there. They were quick getting water to it. They were quick to be able to be right there, literally around the corner. It was a huge help. Having our station spaced out the way that it is strategically is part of the overall planning of the fire company. Chiefs, many chiefs ago, many presidents ago, 20-some years ago, they saw the growth happening out that direction and they realized there would be a need for Station 3. There would be a need for a firehouse to be out there. So they made the plan, they started formulating the plan, and that's where we're at today. Is that station seeing the growth that's out there, seeing Ocean's East Apartments, that's a stone's throw away. Not only is that helpful for our purposes of being able to get the fire truck out, we have members now that live in Ocean East, so it's directly right around the corner for them. They can get to a firehouse, they can get on the fire truck quicker, they can respond quicker, rather than having to come all the way in here to Main Street Station.
But you don't keep EMS equipment out there?
We do not. The EMS ambulances and the career staff are all stationed at our headquarters building.
Because I can remember they had like 2 or 3 fires within a month or so over there to Ocean's East.
We've had quite a few of them, yes.
Yeah.
So one thing I want to ask you real quick, you mentioned from the county you get the 250 flat fee per year plus $1,000 per out-of-town call.
Correct.
So what was your total revenue from the county in your last roughly?
So we say about, I think it was around 200 out-of-town calls a year, so another 200,000.
Okay.
Yeah, and we dedicate that to capital. And that's how we paid, and we've said it before, we're talking about Station 3. So all of the funds, there was no town funds used to purchase the land or build or equipment, the gym, et cetera, for Station 3. That was all the out-of-town run funds, because it was capital. That's what we do with that, and we continue to do that. This loan that I'll talk about in number 2, all of the capital that we get from out of town helps pays that money.
So when you,
for next
so what all of that shows in the documents.
that you get, and these are the same documents you.
Well, I asked,
but
right,
that's-
I hear you, in the same ones, but what I'm,
So if we need to explain them a little better.
Yeah.
So I wrote, that's what I wrote, and that'll be
Yes.
number one in November, or December, second quarter. That'll be number one.
And can I also just throw out, this is a personal thing, when I did the ride, not the little, when I did the ride along.
You gotta start with that.
It was, well, but it gave me a little bit more, like, we talk about capital, and we talk about, I'm not being, but, you know, we talk about ropes, and we talk about, I don't know, ladders and stuff like that. It's a lot, in my opinion, just speaking for Jack, it's a lot different sitting here listening to you say that, and then when you're out there seeing it in action. So basically what I'm getting at here is I'm very concerned with the fact of the capital side of this. And that's what I'm aiming to try to personally try to help out with the most of this upcoming year. And I think that I think it's important for folks to understand, you know, how important a rope really could be. So that was just my 2 cents on that.
Sorry, so I'll jump in on those points there. The $1,000 for out-of-town call from the county, correct?
Correct.
So the research side, you know, this is such a unique relationship, right? The fire company and the fire EMS are vendors of the town. So, you know, to me, I think we all have the goal of what's fair and equitable, like you said. So $1,000 out-of-town call for the county, I mean, I believe the fairness aspect on operating is a formula. I really believe that. What would be a in-town formula call that you think would be a reasonable stipend to receive, fee, I guess? And then I just wanted to start with that to see, because I do believe that is something that the citizens can look at and say, well, look, with this many calls, this is how much they're charging. And that charge may go up next year, you know, because of inflation, whatever else. But do you have something in mind as far as what you think of an adequate fee would be?
So it would still be the $1,000 a call, because it's the same apparatus, it's the same capital equipment. It would be the $1,000 a call.
Okay.
And that was part of the study as well, the 3 options of the study. And if I get down here and repeat myself when I get to 4, cut me off, because I got my notes. So part of the study was, that's the choices, about number 4. You can do a tax amount, so many cents on the dollar, like the county does, and a per run. So that was one of the choices, mimic that formula. Another choice was strictly the tax amount, so many cents on the tax dollar total for capital and operating. And the third was, as we do it now, present a budget, and the town kind of gets to fill in the hole. We do a budget just like your town staff would do. They do a budget for expenses, then they go up to the revenue and try to fill in those holes, like where you had to debate increasing business license fees or something, because you're trying to fill that revenue hole. So that was really the 3 options. So Steve, it's still going to be $1,000 a call, because it's the same.
And it's 200 out-of-town calls last year.
About 200. We average about 200. That's the number we use when we do our 5-year
What
budget
was the
plan.
in-town call?
So it would be,
Because, while you're doing that, because I think my feeling has always been operationally on the fire side, we're actually not that far off, I don't believe. It's capital is where we find the big gap, right? So that's how, in my mind, I'm separating operations. What, you got the number?
so it'd be about 160. So if you did the $1,000 a call, we're asking for 150, it would be 160. And we can get the exact number by those quarterly reports, we'll add them together.
Now, do all fire companies get that same $1,000 fee for their out-of-area calls?
All of the ones that are attached to a municipality, and that includes Ocean Pines.
So if Ocean Pines and you respond to a call like you did at the Exxon station, each one gets $1,000? No.
That's mutual aid, and that's a wash.
So the way that funding works, if it is our first due call, meaning it is in our fire district, it is in Berlin's fire district. If it's an in-town call, currently, we don't get any credit. If we have an out-of-town call, we get the $1,000 from the county for responding to that call. If Ocean Pines Fire Company comes and assists us, Ocean Pines does not get anything for that call, funding-wise. It is the home department. You know, And-
Yeah.
So if you respond on mutual aid call outside of the Berlin district,
Correct.
you don't receive
We don't
those funds.
receive any of those funds. So if we go to Ocean City, we go to Ocean Pines or Shell or wherever,
What you guys do,
right, we do quite often. We don't receive any funds for those calls.
So what's your district? Technically 21811 or just Berlin?
No, it's
Well,
not too-
actually, let me stop with
Yeah.
that because Ocean Pines is 21811 as well. So your district is
So-
Berlin proper and Berlin Common outside of Ocean Pines.
Basically, so to use a couple of rough landmarks, if you will, we cover the Route 50 corridor all the way to the county line. We cover the Route 50 corridor all the way to Walmart. We're in between Walmart and 7-Eleven area. Glen Riddle, we go down 589 to Gunpoint Road area. And of course, we have all of South Point.
Yeah.
We go 611 up to Snug Harbor Road. That's kind of the cutoff of Ocean City. So we've got a large area out there.
Yeah.
What about Acetate that parks?
Assateague, the entire
yours,
island of
yeah.
Assateague is ours, all the way
Okay.
down to the Virginia line.
Okay.
That's a large area.
Huh? Oh, Acetate is the Virginia line. I'm sorry.
Actually, no, Snow Hills District is larger because of the Pocono Forest.
Yeah.
So now it's not as populated, but their
Yeah.
district is
Right.
larger because of the
By
forest.
mass, by land.
And purely out of curiosity, does the state or federal park pay anything when you go to a call? The only reason I ask that is because many, many, many years ago, when I was an MP, the minute New York City Fire Company stepped foot on our base, they were getting paid. And so I'm just
Yes.
curious
Yeah.
if the parks pay.
Police and Park
So,
Service.
so we send them bills.
I mean, I don't, you know,
So we send them bills. I think out of my head, we had more than one, but I can't tell you how many more than one, firearms to the Ratcliffe House or the National Park. They did not pay either one of those bills.
yeah, like I say, I don't know what the arrangement was that the US Army had with New York City, but I just was curious.
Well, I mean,
And
Yeah, you're
we've had
responding,
support
yeah.
from them in the past, and I'm gonna go back to in the 90s.
95 is when we got it.
So in the 90s, they helped us a little bit on the brush truck previous to this one, and they did give us some funding for the rescue truck with an agreement that the rescue truck would be like their command post. That's why you see the extra ratings and stuff in the back for like that. It wasn't a lot.
No, and I wouldn't imagine that there are enough calls to make it, but I was curious.
but they would still want you to be prepared in the likelihood that there were calls. So, that's even interesting as far as reaching out again to see what the funds they have.
Steve, did that answer your
You did,
question?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, I just wanted to try to see, and maybe just from my background, the more experienced members around here are married, why do we not use the formula? Is there a reason why we haven't used the formula?
I think historically, it's been difficult to
To-
establish
To
one.
develop, yeah.
Gotcha. And the county doesn't institute the formula.
Excuse me.
So the 3 cents on the tax dollar, that was back when, in the 70s, when Bennett Bosman, Carl Massey, I think Mr. Mason, I think everybody's deceased that was on that commission at the time. And that's been the 3 cents on the tax dollar. The $1,000 per call, that was around 06, 08, if I had to guess. I might be I should be around pretty close on that, I think. And then we've talked about, and it was just in our last week's meeting, and we've talked about numerous times at the county strategic planning that 3 cents on the tax dollar needs to go up. The county has done a wonderful job of EMS funding, but the fire funding has been flat. So this was our first meeting after our summer break, and it was very clear that that is a priority for the county commissioners coming up for the next budget year, to look at either that 3 cents on the tax dollar needs to go up, or come up with some other per lot fee, per parcel fee, whatever.
So when does that, because I would imagine they would start getting heavy into budget around the same time we are in January.
December.
So then,
So I want to put a caveat to that 3 cents on the tax dollar. So they have been supplementing that. So if you do the math, I think this year, we would only be getting about 240,000. So they've been supplementing that. So this year was like a $10,000 supplement. The year before was about 16,000. So they have been varying from the formula in a good way, going over their requirement. The charter says the 3 cents on the tax dollar, and they've been going over that. There will be a point, and we talked about that at our meeting, don't know when that'll be. The 3-year assessment is going around, I believe it's Ocean City that Mr. Thompson told us is this year. There could be a chance that that 3 cents on the tax dollar generates more than 250. And I might be incorrect, I'm not a tax assessment calendar guy. When mine comes, of course, Berlin, we know when ours comes. But when the north end gets reassessed again, Mr. Thompson, who's the county treasurer finance officer, department head, he thinks the formula is going to kick us all over the 250. He thinks the assessment's going to go up.
Tell me, you stated a few minutes ago that because you are attached to a municipality, the stipend is that $1,000. So what happens when a company is not attached to a municipality, and can you identify those in the county?
So starting at the south end, that would be Stockton, Pocomoke, Newark.
Stockton, Girdle Tree.
What is it, Pocomoke?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stockton.
200, I do it by state.
Oh, yeah,
200,
I was thinking-
200 is Stockton, 300 is Girdle Tree, 500 is Newark, 800 would be Shaw, Bishopville. So the ones that don't have, that aren't municipal governments, and they do count Ocean Pines as a municipality, that are association. So in the thought process is a couple things. It's the tax differential discussion that the government officials get into that we don't. And it's also, the municipal companies are busier. The companies that I named, and they don't have they have the responsibility, just like we have to put out the fire. They don't have the capacity, the call value, the downtowns. There is no downtown Stockton. So, wish there was. Girdle Tree, Newark, there is no vibrant community. They're rural, so it's a different type of firefighting. The engine still costs them, as the chief said, the engine still costs them $1 million.
So they just get a
So-
flat stipend?
They
or-
get,
lack of a better
they
word.
get the 250, and they do get something else, but since I'm not one of the, I'm not
Right.
familiar with what they get.
Okay.
It's a lower amount, and it's not per run, it's a flat number.
Okay.
But that's a good thought for us, what you said, having
Yeah.
a per-call fee for funding, and we have a metric to base it on.
And I've run those charts before, many times.
Yeah.
So we can run those charts again. I quit doing it because there seemed to be no appetite from the town at the time to do that. But I can run those numbers very easily. The in-town cost times 1,000, and we can, I have the tax rates. I'm going to give you a handout about the 3 cents on the tax dollar. I've got all that calculated already.
And it helps with our planning as well, and the apparatus loan, that we knew we get X number of dollars out of turnaround calls every year, and we knew that we could calculate.
See,
So-
but before we get to formula or tax rate, we need to understand what the need is. That seems to be lacking. We need to understand what the need is. And when I say need, I'm speaking your entire operation, and when you spend and how much you spend and where you spend and what you project to be spent, and any factors that may need to be included, like the price of those ambulances going up, like you shared with us earlier. We need to understand those type things, and if we can get the understanding of need, including Station 3, that will allow us to possibly work toward equitable farming.
So I'll touch just a little bit on a need. And David here has alluded to some of it. In the last couple of years, we've had some pretty hefty expenses on apparatus repair. I just had an engine that left my firehouse Memorial Day. We just got it back, 2 weeks ago? Because we were waiting for parts, we were waiting for repairs, they were waiting on technicians to come from other places, things of that nature. So it's 3 months that we were without a fire truck. Partially because of the age of the apparatus, partially because of the repairs that were needed to be done were extensive, because of the age of the fire truck itself. It's 2006? You know, most people, their cars, you keep maybe 10 years for the most part. You start having issues, you trade it in and get a new one. You know, fire trucks, life expectancy. Fire trucks' life expectancy, the more you use them, the more abuse they have behind them.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna point towards you a little bit, that the day that you were with us on the car accident, I showed you the rescue truck and you know, the age of the equipment and things on the rescue truck as well. That is one of the vehicles that we are replacing, in the near future. We will also be replacing some of the equipment that is on there, because of the age of the equipment. The need is, we have to keep up with everything that's going on. The other disadvantage to us is, and I say to us being the fire service, our standards are constantly changing. Air packs is one of them, which we've had many discussions about air packs and everything else, but you know, air packs, the hydraulic tools that we use to cut open a car when somebody's had an accident. That technology is changing and evolving constantly. A lot of the tools that we currently have, the Hurst hydraulic company no longer makes those tools. They no longer support those tools, they're not making the parts, and it's pretty much, when they're gone, they're gone. They're moving towards they call it their e-hydraulics platform. Essentially, it's a small battery-operated tool instead of having the pump and the actual and everything else. But then you're dependent upon battery power. So as the standards are constantly changing, we're constantly trying to find ways to keep up with those standards. And I know a lot of people in the public won't understand that, you know, and we'd be more than willing to have a meeting one day and we'll pull out the fire trucks and show you guys what I'm referring to. You know, I haven't been doing this real long, but just the time frame that I've been doing it, I've watched things evolve and move. And when you get a product line that's discontinued,
Yeah.
and you're dependent on that product line, such as we're in right now, you know, the product line that we currently have on majority of our fleet is being discontinued. We got to find ways to update our fleet, and I can tell you now that I think we had an initial guesstimate done. We had to replace the hydraulic tools, everything that we have right now. You're talking $250,000. That's probably on 1 or 2 fire trucks. That doesn't include everything we have. And that's just one aspect. I mean, it's constantly changing, it's constantly evolving for everybody.
So, kind of we're segueing into the number 2. Talked a lot about that, but just to review the capital apparatus, you know, as the chief just said, we have a rescue truck and an engine, and we presented that to the mayor and council at a work session, and we did execute a loan for a little less than $2.5 million, and that loan is an annual payment of $200,000 until 2038, August of 2038. And as we've explained, the issue with that amortization, if we follow that, we are in a heck of a situation that is not good to be in, because that loan takes us till 2038 without any additional funds. We could not borrow any more money. The next engine would be 39 years old. The engine that the chief just referred to that we've had out for repairs for 3 months, it would be 32 years old. The ladder truck would be 22 years old, and the newest engine we have would be 20 years old. And then we financed the stuff for 15 years, so we're paying off an engine in 15 years. Well, doggone, they're only supposed to be 20, you're only gonna have 5, well, that one's gonna need to be replaced. So we've had to do that because of the revenue, and we've had to do that because we just can't wait any longer. When you have that age of apparatus.
Have you received this?
No, we will not get those until August, I just looked at, just an email, December of '24
For the engine.
for the engine, and then it's August, I think, of '25.
But you're already making
for
payments?
rescue. We are, so that was, we bid out our financing, and we had a company who specializes in this, and the reason we're making payments, that money's invested in an escrow account, and we're making money. So we're making more than any bank around here could do.
Right.
So it's just like taking our money out of the account into a CD. So we're making money on that money.
So
it's invested.
And then when you get the equipment, then that comes out?
That comes out of that escrow, right. So it was, we were ecstatic when this company replied to us with this option.
Yeah.
And they specialize in this, so they deal with all over the country, municipalities and counties. And so when they showed us that, and we had to explain that to our local banks that, hey, this is a deal.
Yeah.
They could not match it. We had very prominent people at the bank said, no, we understand, you need this, you need to take this deal.
Well, that
You need-
needs to be, yeah, I mean, in the future,
Yeah.
it needs to be the company to operate with, because
So-
if you're looking
so-
at 15-year loans for 20-year equipment, they understand that too, so when it's time to re-up,
Yeah.
they get it.
They don't really like it to be that long, but as long as they're,
But I mean, if they're in the business,
they're
they
in the business,
understand.
and if they gotta come repo it, and I did ask that question.
They're not gonna repossess
They
it.
will, yes, they will.
Yes, they will.
That was a question I asked, and they will. They will.
Yeah, absolutely.
They have done it, and they will do it.
Now, how is
I think they have to be
that,
pushed
how
pretty
is
hard
that
to get them
reflected? How is that reflected in the information that you provide us?
That's in the capital budget that we submit by every December. That's that spreadsheet that we go over, and that you get every December showing the apparatus age, how much it costs, what the replacement cost is.
I'm talking about the deal you've made that assists you with generating income.
So that'll be shown, it'll be shown on our balance sheet as a liability because it's a loan. And then you'll see it change every year. The liability will go down and our apparatus asset will go up, especially when it gets here.
So I don't wanna be a Debbie Downer here, ladies and gentlemen, but we are at 6:57.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we're trying to stay within that hour, or if we're staying here till we,
So while we're on that, just to give you some thoughts about what other people do, and I talked to the president of Ocean Ponds today and confirmed with their, because they operate under an agreement similar to a contract like we have here. Ocean Ponds Association pays for 50% of their apparatus if they go by, just like the chief mentioned about Alabama, Alabama, they pay for 50%. When they bid out the truck, if the truck is $500,000, Ocean Pond Association pays for half of it. Easton, they do a 1-for-1 right now. They just ordered 2 engines. At the same time, the fire company is paying for one, and the town is paying for the other one. Cambridge, but they use their ARPA funds. They bought a ladder truck and an engine, I believe. But so that.
now, are these fire entities in those other locations you're talking about, are they departments or are they separate entities?
They are separate entities. The only departments that we have locally that are town-run, that's actually going to bring us into number 3, is Ocean City and Salisbury.
Okay, I just wanted to double check.
And Pocomo.
And then Pocomo
Yeah.
for EMS. But for fire, Salisbury and Ocean City, and then you get, in Delaware, you get up to Wilmington, and then you get county-based, you cross the bridge, Anne Arundel County, Hartford County.
Yeah, Prince George's County,
rather,
yeah, yeah.
Prince George's. But on the eastern shore, it would just be, eastern shore of Maryland, it would just be the Salisbury Fire Department, and the Ocean City Fire. And the oceans, and they're both supplemented by volunteers. So that gets us into number 3. If the town decided they wanted to take on the responsibility, and this is something that I think the only council member here would be Mr. Burrell, and I don't of how much Mary was involved. I think Mr. Carson was the administrator at the time.
But Mary was here.
Yeah, so this is an exercise that Mr. Stern did for the mayor and council one time, and he was at 12 million. I'm a little less, but and this is just facetious, just to be honest with you. This is just sharing information. If the fire company decided to go a Salisbury Ocean City route, you would probably look at $9 million of capital. That's being conservative. I did take information out of the study as to how much apparatus you would need. And then doing depreciation over 30 years, 20 years, you're looking at $391,000 for capital. And then I just did the labor. You'd have to have 6 people per shift working. The chief has more expertise than I have at this, but 4 on the engine and 2 on the ladder truck, or 3 and 3. You need an admin person, you need a chief. You're looking at, over $1 million in payroll, and then I didn't even put any guess to the other operating utilities occupancy. So that's why I think you see some of the other towns continue the same as you do, have a volunteer, have an outside entity.
Your towns were getting a pretty good deal.
That's what exactly. Don't put that over. Yeah.
Turn it over.
Turn that over.
Let's move along.
But, well, one thing I did want to kind of, and we're just talking on the record, we're always on the record, but the mayor asked a question that the chief and I were kind of put on the spot and couldn't really answer. That's actually not here for that. And that's, he asked, what would the impact to the fire company be if the town did the fire? And he kept saying it would be no impact. It would be a great impact. The first impact would be 40% of our calls would go away. So as a volunteer, oh my God, 40% less time that I have to get up out of bed and come to the fire station. Volunteer-wise, wonderful. It would also, the number of equipment. The chiefs may decide, and most of the rural companies don't have a ladder truck, so that's $1.5 million. Might not need 4 engines, we only need 3, so that's another $1 million. So the mayor asked us that question.
So you're saying it would be good,
It would be good for us.
It
would be, as far as that part, because, but it wouldn't be good on the taxpayers, because you would have, a budget of probably $1.5 million to $2 million, like you have for the police department. So just want to share that information with you. Mr. Stern did an exercise back in, I think, 2014, 15, 16, with that. So I know you want to keep moving along. So, yeah, Mr. Brody, you had a question?
When you come back, would you be able to compare your equipment to those municipalities you pointed out? Easton, I think you used, and it was Easton and Cambridge, and yet it was another.
Ocean Ponds.
Ocean Ponds. Can you like compare your, when I'm talking compare, I'm just talking about vehicle and their purpose.
So you're saying, is your end game to find out if the association is paying for the same thing we're paying for?
No.
Oh.
My end game is to find out
See, after
just
7
what I
o'clock,
said.
the way in which I speak,
just what I
everything
said.
changes.
What do you have that those folks have, or you may have, or they may not have, something like that. So that will help us try to understand the need of your equipment.
So with the in-town runs, when we talk about that, and we're talking about the matrix of $1,000 per call, how does that equate when it comes to the other entities, Gull Creek, Berlin Nursing Home, Atlantic General? Are we still charged the $1,000 as a town, or does that change because you're going to an entity where there's going to be something else tied into that? Or tell me, I'm trying to understand.
The $1,000 a call is not a charge.
Oh, right. Well, I'm saying that's the matrix.
That is what the county provides us for providing a response service to out of town. So the entities that you said are in town.
Yes, but I'm
So-
saying, if we were to, so if we went back to, we were just talking about creating the matrix.
Mm-hmm.
If we were to follow that same pattern in the town of Berlin, would these entities still be included in that $1,000 per call? Or would that be altered because of the,
Because of their anticipation of high call volume.
This is fire calls. This has nothing to do with.
fire,
It's-
okay, okay, so we're talking fire.
This
So would
is fire
EMS
calls.
be different, price-wise?
Yes, it will. Yes, when we get over that, I'll go through that
Oh,
whole
gosh.
formula. And that's why I suggested 2 meetings. I know that you all said, but this is, if we're gonna get into meats and potatoes, this takes time, and then we'll get confused. So I try not to mix the topics, so I'll try to move along.
That's all we-
See, now, I just found something out. It would seem to me that with all of the equipment that you all have to put on site during a fire, that $1,000 really is not enough.
It may, well, not, but as you said, we have to justify, so I'll answer that with the questions we have to justify that.
Yeah.
So the math works out like 160,000, and we're asking for 150 for capital. The 200 calls we're running out of town, the 200,000 for our payment. So that's the justification that we're not here to ask for more than is necessary to
Yeah.
perform the service.
Because you have a lot of equipment on site
Yeah,
sometimes.
exactly. And so the thing I gave you is actually a page out of one of the county brief books. So it has the tax rate. So 1 cent on the tax dollar is 53,000 some change. Your finance officer can verify that and all that. So the fire, so going down and I apologize about my handwriting, but the fire is 350,000. That would be our future request, 200 and 150. If you divided that, that's 6.5 cents on the tax dollar. That's just all I'm showing you is information. The next line, FY '24, the 116,961 that was initially passed in the budget, that's 2 cents on the tax dollar. If you add in the 200,000, that's almost 4 cents on the tax dollar, compared to police protection at 48 cents on the tax dollar. So this helps you all and us show the taxpayers where their money's going. So you know, the taxpayers are paying 48 cents for police, and right now, they're only paying 2 cents on the tax dollar for fire. If you flip it on the back, I don't know what to use. I'm not, you all would be much more educated than I am. I just took a $300,000 home. I don't know what the average is in Berlin. You all may know that off the top of your heads. I took a guess. So at 82.5, that's their town taxes, if I did the math right. Police, 1,400 hours, $65.10. So I'll tell you, and the membership will tell you, I have the support of the membership. We've talked about it before. The county's asked the same thing. If you have to go, you as elected officials have to go to the public and say, there's a tax increase, we will be here with you to do exactly what Vice President Burrell said. Explain why it's needed. Show what we're doing, how many calls we're doing in town. What is the apparatus? That's why we had an open house a few months ago, back in April, at budget time. And we did it at budget time for a reason, in case you all had to do something. And one of your 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 bullet points was fire EMS. The public had an opportunity to come up and take a look. And we had signs posted, you know, this truck costs such and such, this piece of equipment costs such and so.
How well was that
Do you
attended?
do that every year?
We do it occasionally when we think you all are debating, you know, tax rates, we do it, so not every year. But we try to do something every couple of years. We may do it during fire prevention week, but sometimes we do it at budget time. But the county commissioners have told us the same thing that Vice President Burrell has said, is, you
Make
know,
it make sense.
you got to be here to support us. If we're asking for something, you're the one that need to answer the question. So when you're at the dais saying we're going to vote on X, and you're saying one of the reasons is fire EMS, and the public asks a question, the fire chief, the ambulance captain, the president will be here to say, here's why, here's where the money comes from, X, A, B, C, expenses, X, Y, Z, and this is what we do. So this is more informational sheet. And part of, again, if you come up with this formula, and this is some of the drill we went through before, Steve, is that we did before. After the study, we did it for like 2 budget cycles, and then there was no appetite, so instead of us wasting our time with these charts and stuff, we just quit doing it.
I mean, is there, before he wastes time, do you guys?
But I don't mind doing it, that's what we're here for. So, I mean, I don't want to cut you off, we would do this. We will run maybe the last 2 years, what the funding would be at $1,000 a call, what the funding would be at 3 cents on the tax dollar, show you where it would be. We're glad to do
I
that.
mean, I'm very curious on that. I think that through this
You can
discussion.
see it.
Yeah, I'm very interested in all that, but I think through the discussion, if I understand it correctly, is, and you had even said that the numbers match up from what we've talked about on how we're doing and the 40% and all that stuff. So, not all that stuff, you know what I mean. So I think that, I mean, it seems to me that things are pretty much on target, but I am curious about some of that data. So I would be interested in seeing
And
that.
we won't wait till the next meeting. We'll do that in the next couple of weeks. Let me get through the financial things, and then let me have a week where my brain's not got numbers running out, and then I'll do it, please. That's all I ask.
So before we move on to the impact, the tax rate, I'm just concerned about our town taxpayers. Will they view a separate fire service tax, say, call it, as double taxation because it's already in their county
Yes.
tax rate?
Yes.
So I don't know the details. I know speaking with Snow Hill's fire chief, Snow Hill, I believe, just did I believe they called it a public safety tax. It's a percentage, and this is information through talking chief to chief, just having a conversation, but I believe the town of Snow Hill just recently did something, and that money is specifically set for police department and their fire and EMS.
But it's
So
split.
I
So it's not
I
like
don't
it
know the
went to one
details,
entity. Okay.
how they're splitting it, or I just know through,
It's similar to that sheet that I just gave you. They did that exercise that I just did, figured out how much their tax dollar was for police, and then when they went to the public with a 13-cent tax increase, I think they did.
13 cents.
I'm not so sure, and I could be wrong on this, but I'm not
That
so
was,
sure.
that was one of the
Yes,
one of the
yes.
points.
I don't know that they could establish a separate tax,
back.
but they could say X dollars or X cents of your tax dollar is dedicated to
you know,
this.
you're supposed to put that.
No, that's okay. I mean, that's, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a common.
It's just fire chief.
Maryland is pretty restrictive on the freedom that municipalities have to impose special taxes.
Right.
And I'm not going to speak to it, I'm not an expert, but I do know that
That's
it's,
a Troy tax, man.
yeah.
So this, we don't have to spend really any great amount of time on there. I just Googled some time ago municipal impact fees for fire EMS, and I just printed a couple off. So that they are out there in the community. So, and there's a whole FEMA document on how to come up with those. And basically, it's just a formula. Is you look at your what's needed, $2.5 million worth of apparatus divided by either the number of parcels in town. If you look at the one side here that looks like this, you know, it's a per parcel. It's a single-family residence pays $415.26. A multifamily pays $451. Commercial, then there's another page that I didn't print. Or you go to this other page and it's a flat fee, again, fire and EMS. Or you do it by square footage. So that it changes the cents. It's 23 cents a square foot or whatever. And then what they do is they average for residential, they just pick a number. Okay, all residential is going to be estimated at 1,800 square feet, and the commercial will actually measure. So just wanted to.
Where were these numbers from?
I just Googled municipal,
Just,
and just graded two off the.
Like, okay, so
Yeah.
these are at some town.
Yeah, some town somewhere.
Okay,
I didn't,
okay.
because I didn't because
Can,
it would take more research, and we could do that too. I don't know how much the finance director gets as far as a breakdown of your actual assessments. I know I have through the county GIS residences, commercials in and out of town, and we can do some, we can do another chart.
I think that we can,
Dave,
yeah.
well, the council has asked for a review of all of our fees.
Which we're working on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I think that this would be actually a great time to get with Dave and Natalie, finance and planning,
Yeah.
to see what we could possibly do in that respect.
And this would be really your way to generate your revenue for your $150,000 capital. We wouldn't really be involved, other than, as we've talked about, explaining to the public why we need a ladder truck, an engine, or an ambulance.
Well-
How you generate the revenue, we don't get into that, just like you don't get into some of our stuff.
Right, well, I mean, it's a
But
fire
it's-
safety
it-
impact.
I just wanted to
fee,
let you know,
and I think
it's
that's
out
kind of
there,
explanatory.
it's nothing, we're not thinking outside the box. It's a, in Queen Anne County, I will tell you, Queen Anne County does have a fire EMS impact fee. I think they're just per, by square foot.
Yeah, with all that they got up there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to put words into my colleagues' mouths, but I think that this is a good opportunity to look at that.
And along with impact fees, and I tried to think through my process when I did these real quickly this morning, that leads into the plan development, and that's why, and you all are getting copies of what we're sending, right? So, but we are still not getting timely from the town. We didn't even know, we didn't get anything about last Wednesday's meeting, and there was a large.
The emails are going to, and I've gone into the background on constant contact, and you are
Now, we did not
they are
get,
being sent.
okay, so we didn't get any on Friday for that, and it's a similar, and I don't
The
want to,
planning and zoning,
yeah,
Oh.
so
You're not getting the agendas and
So
the meeting packets?
we are only getting it by constant contact.
Right.
And that is too late. That's a Friday for a Wednesday, just like you've asked
well,
us.
that's how
You're,
we get it.
you're getting them at the same time that the
Yeah.
commission is getting them.
But I hate to do this, but that's not what the contract says, and you all put that in the contract. You said at the submission of the plan or the permit.
Oh, so you're saying at the same time that the planning
We're
commission
getting it
gets
the same
it?
time the public gets it, and
So
I'm happy
he-
to call
he-
these guys up.
Yeah.
He
that's
needs it
different.
before then.
To allow
Got it.
time for the
Okay,
planning
okay.
commission to receive the report
Yeah.
on what the.
I'm having
Okay.
to call him and the EMS captain over the phone, over the weekends, compile that report, and then by the time we get all the answers, because people are busy on the weekend, I'm having to come up here usually on that Wednesday with my 9 copies and hand those to Miss Carolyn or Mr. Dave. And that's not fair to the planning commission either, because then they're not getting them until whatever time their meeting starts.
See, that's where the county has their TRC meetings,
Right.
well in advance of the planning commission meetings. So everything's reviewed, you would
Yeah.
go in, meet with Dave, review everything, the architects.
So like the one I looked at in July, I mean, that was very obvious to me, even in the public packet, the applicant date was way back earlier. Well, why didn't we get it like the next day?
So you're saying the same time the application is when you feel that you should see it? Okay,
You
I'm
should.
understanding.
And
more.
and that's
Yeah,
what
yeah.
you all decided, not us.
No, 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 I was
So you can
stuck for a
comment
minute,
before it gets too far down the process.
Yeah.
for sure.
So,
So just on
so,
that, before we let that go.
so if we can just refresh that with somebody.
Was that most recent meeting an exception? Because I thought it had been going pretty well, because I mean, I've been watching the meetings and hearing where Dave has said the planning commission has a report. Like, I was just wondering if that was an outlier, or has it been like that for?
Well, no, since July 1st, we get the constant contact, as Mary explains, constant contact.
So you are getting them.
But we did not get this one on the 13th. We did not,
And I mean-
we searched our email on Friday. I've not had our guy in Georgetown, our Microsoft guy, look at it. But the other ones, we're getting them on Friday for a Wednesday meeting. And we're seeing the application in the packet, and we see it's been, the town's had it for a while.
But I just want to make sure, there had been some that the process did work, right? Where you weren't given enough time, though?
All of them, not enough time. All of them we get by constant contact.
Oh,
So that's
All.
always the Thursday or Friday before the meeting.
Now, that building's been
Usually.
in play for a while because it went to the historic commission.
Yeah.
And you weren't, you didn't know.
So that was even before it was.
So we didn't do any comments on what they did, and I've got that written down to print it out and talk to the chief of ambulance captain. And because we want to fulfill our obligation to get it here
For sure.
now that we know about it. And we know it's too late because they've already approved it. I think, and I'm going to defer to our chief and our ambulance captain, that it should still go to the applicant because it has things in it, you've read it. This is a 3-story apartment building. When they're building it, they need to think about how we're going to get patients down and out and don't build a little stairway.
Yeah, up
You
to
know,
code.
that we can't get people out.
Well, it's being built up to code.
But I'm
It's the
saying,
code.
but he's saying wide
But
enough.
sometimes adding 4 inches of something
You want to make sure
doesn't
there's a
cost.
knockbox on there.
Yeah.
stuff
So,
like that,
so,
yeah.
you know, other things like backyard of the building, and I'll give you an example, Ocean's East, the recent fire that we had there, we actually took our ladder truck and drove it around the backside of the building. You know, they reinforced the ground so that the deck's on fire on the 3rd floor of this building, we were able to get our ladder truck around the back. So it might be something as simple as, hey, you know, you've got this building next to the woods, it'd be nice if we had 20 or 30 feet back there that we could get a truck back there if we had to. Something like that. So not necessarily against the code, but something that we might see.
No, I just wanted to
Right,
clarify.
right,
Oh, no,
When
no,
you
no.
said
it's-
Yeah.
built to code, it's being built to
Right,
code.
right.
Well, yeah, I get that part, but I mean.
Oh, they left out a few
Yeah.
things.
No doubt. So you all can take care of that internally. So the calendar, I want to put that on there. So you know, we've got
Look
a
at this!
draft one here.
Can I see this?
Yep, that's why I
I
brought
love
it.
the flippin' print. Look at me, I'm waiting
So,
for that.
$200 for her. Supply and demand.
Are you holding like puppies and stuff?
Well, let's get to it. Woo, look at, can you guys see
Keep it
that?
off of Facebook.
I'm not showing them. I might want to show them, they might want to buy it.
Nice.
So just let you know where we are. You know, we
I am impressed, guys.
investigated
That's
that,
the best thing I heard all night.
but we don't know the marketing side of it. So that calendar, by the
Just
time
put it
you,
on Facebook, buddy.
by the time, well,
Calendars are on sale.
so by the time you add postage, the credit card fees, and all that.
Put it in the calendar press, yeah.
That would be, you know, $19.12 our cost. So who is gonna buy a calendar for $25?
I would.
So, and that, and so that's where we're in the firefighting business, as we've said before, we're not against trying to raise funds. But I look at all of you who are business people,
Yeah.
you know, at
$20,
1912, we got to sell it for 25,
I think it'd be sold for 40.
around number.
Yeah.
I mean,
And to be
Fundraising.
completely honest with you, I'm telling you, if you brought this thing out to the darn farmer's market, I know this is the last week, but I'm saying, if these things came out to those types of events and whatever else, and you're out there, I'm not telling you to be out there in your boots and gear, but I mean, be out there in your boots and gear, one person or your boot out there. People will buy this. Have your little swiper, McSwiper.
So there's where I'm going,
Okay.
is the very first thing he said, who's gonna go down there and sit? And then that's another cost, because our credit card machine is attached to the building.
Right.
So,
I don't know, but you got a sale right here.
yes.
That's all I know.
I'm not even the only person. Do you know how many people have said to me, Shanika, have they said more about calendar?
Do we want to,
There's a calendar.
take the government funds?
Are you putting that in your
taxpayer
article?
funds,
There is a
and
calendar.
spend $1,600 for 100 calendars which are dated? It's a business decision, so that might not sell. So,
Oh, honey, the
16
calendar's gonna
So
sell.
$1,600, I'm using round numbers.
Look at
So
Santa and
$1,600 for 100 calendars.
You've already paid that.
No, we haven't paid
Oh,
anything.
this is just a.
No, this is just showing you one.
Oh.
Yeah,
This is
oh
a
yeah, this is just a markup. We're just trying to tell you, we're receptive, we're listening to you. When you all
I like
suggest
it.
something, we'll investigate it.
So you're saying if you spend $1,600 with the opportunity of getting $2,500 back,
So, no.
right?
Well,
At $2,500.
2,500 minus 16, so that's 900 in my brain. 25 minus 16 is
Yeah.
9, so we make
You
$900.
make it.
But I mean, it's $900.
It is,
If you sell them all.
if you sell all,
Don't forget to
If you
sell them
sell
by
them all.
January.
you need to sell them, exactly. So
By January 1st.
All right,
Again,
so all those bazaars where people are out there selling them gems and jars and jellies.
you can look at them, I don't care. I just need it back at some point.
I was about to say, are we keeping this one? Because I can market it for you.
Well, what else do you have, Dave?
Okay,
We
so-
don't want to be here too long.
Yep, so the mayor threw out the fish fry idea. If he'll send us the contact and the person, but again, we're not negative Nellies here. And if somebody's listening that's named Nellie, I'm not trying to be. It's again, it's volunteer time. It's time, as you said, somebody's got to sit up here. And then when the fire siren, they're going to need to leave because we need them up there not selling calendars. So they got to grab all that real quickly and take off. So
One thing the mayor did want to ask you guys is recruitment efforts, why not establish associate memberships like
Yeah.
Ocean City and Ocean Pines?
So I got that next, and I'll give you a little history. So the associate programs are mainly EMS based. You have a few that are fire in Ocean City, and it's not that we're against it. So I will tell you that that was reviewed by our board, our bylaws group, and our membership, and it was voted not to proceed with it. The issues that, like Ocean City, that they're a different animal. You have an associate member, and the chief can tell you, he stayed 2 nights at the firehouse, and how many calls did you go on?
Well, maybe one.
Yeah.
Cardiac
So associate members want to do something, so going to Ocean City and spending the night, they're going to feel welcomed. Well, they'll feel welcomed at our place too, but they want to do things. So that's a higher value issue. That's what we talked about. Our facilities, spending the night and that type of thing is a challenge. We need to help. We acknowledge that. But the call value.
How do you know until you try though?
Yeah.
It could bring in a few
So
volunteers there.
two things. One, we've tried this before. So we being the officers have tried to get the membership to agree to associate membership. I will put together a packet and take it to the floor and try to present it again, but we have to do it in certain times of the years, the way our bylaws are structured.
Right.
You can't just do it any time of the year. It has to be certain times of the year that we're allowed to present bylaw changes. So it's something that I will take to the floor.
So I wrote that down, that we would take the notes back and try again. The other concern that was brought up, and I went back and looked at my notes of that meeting night.
Is equipping people.
Is equipping people, the cost of it, and going in and out the door. When I talk to other places that have associate memberships, you buy $3,500 of gear, and in 2 months they decide they don't want to go. It's fitted for them. If us, you and I are the same waist and height. And the other thing is, what would stop, this was a big thing that was brought up, what would stop all our members from going to associate program? What if we all did it? If we said, oh, associates don't have these attendance requirements, don't have all this.
RGC didn't see
And
that.
we all went to associate fire company, would then, we'd be telling the county and town, yeah, we're all associate members, I don't know who's gonna pay the bills and who's gonna do all this other stuff, but this associate membership is great, and that's what we're all gonna change to, and just come and go as we please.
So it has its pros and
It
cons.
has its pros and cons.
But you can structure what the associate membership is.
Right. But the biggest thing
What
is
the
the
rules
equipment and the gear. And then,
Yeah.
and then the other thing, talking to other companies, is it puts a lot of burden on our officers for making sure that their training and stuff is correct. They come, because usually the associate member just comes once in a while. So if the chiefs had told us, I can't even think of something, do X when this happens, those people haven't been in our drills, they haven't been in our meetings, they don't know what's going on. And they show up and they're like, well, we didn't know you were doing that, you know? So we're not being, again, negative Nelly. We have weighed our pros and cons, and it doesn't fit for all organizations. And it is mainly, if you call around, like Pittsfield stuff that I've called to, EMS based, because EMS is more cut and dry. Sure. The fire is so many variables with the fire. But like the chief said, well, we can write it up again, he can write up something and present it again to the members. So that's the fire. Steve, go back calendar.
So you could, awesome.
Shanice's gonna have auction for us.
I think the calendar's a great idea.
Yeah,
I
no,
love
I-
the idea that you mocked it up. The only thing I would add to sell it a little harder, or that might help with the sale, is feature, like, I love the photos that are in there, but even in the corner of each of those pages, if you featured one of your folks, you know what I'm saying? Because his family, her family, that cadet's family's gonna say, ooh, grandma's gotta buy 3 calendars because Joey's in the book as well. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's all. I love it, and I think just adding those little features per month, spot on, fellas.
So I don't mean to leave early. I am a little bit of the weather, so I'm gonna head out. But I do want to hear the EMS part at some point.
So similar,
Go through the handout.
You can leave it here.
I mean, I'm gonna watch it online.
so I just did the similar thing to the EMS. And to start off, with EMS, so again, and we'll go through exactly what was asked, review the finances in December. You all get them here in a week or so, but we'll review those financial worksheets and documents in December or November, whatever date you pick. And then, but for next year, it's at 408,039. I'm going to say it's going to be at least $450,000 for the operating. And the reason for that, the rough numbers that I ran, personnel costs, we are okay now with our rates, but if Salisbury, I've just been told they're getting ready to go back to renegotiate their contract, and Ocean City, they're 38%, they're in their contract. If we don't stay competitive, we will lose our staff. I believe they're getting ready to hire some more. The chief told us the other night, he's looking at hiring more staff in Ocean City. So,
Salisbury's hiring more right now.
Salisbury's hiring more, and if they go through a contract renegotiation, we'll have no choice but to raise our rates, or our people will, our pay rates is what I'm talking about, so I clarify that, our pay rates, so payroll. So I would say 450, it's gonna go from 408 to 450.
How does that differ though? Because again, those are the two companies that you guys say are town departments. So would they have to be town employees what does that mean?
Has nothing to do with who pays them. It's just like you searching for a job. If you're a paramedic in Berlin making $18 an hour, and I can go to, I'll just say Pittsville, go to Pittsville and make $20 an hour, and my benefits are comparable, I'm gonna go.
Or to put it in another perspective, starting salary right now for a firefighter EMT for us is $18 an hour.
Yeah.
Somebody can go down the street to a, I'll say, fast food establishment and make $18 an hour.
And I'm gonna give you an even better example that I was hit with. You all put an ad out for a customer service person at $18.90 or $18.99 an hour, and I had 2 EMTs come to me and said, "What in the world? We're out here doing this, and somebody's going to sit at town hall Monday through Friday and answer the phone and do whatever a customer service rep does for 90 or 99 cents more an hour?" I didn't look the ad up, but I believe the people who told me that.
I mean, I'm not belittling what you guys do in the least bit. I don't want to.
So we
be
have
looked
to
at
stay
like that.
competitive. That's
For
just
sure.
the moral.
No. But when I look at that, I see that as an independent contractor versus a department within the overall organization. And I'm not saying that you guys don't deserve what you get paid and then some, but comparing the independent contractor to the department that's a part of the larger organization, that's what I'm asking. Like, it sounds, is there a difference?
It's independent contractor, but you gotta understand we're public safety. Our employees, and I say are the fire and EMS employee, even though we're contracted, we still make them do background checks. They still have to pass drug and tests. We make them maintain their certifications. They have to have continuing education every year on an annual basis to maintain their certifications. They have to keep up with all of our annual training, SCBA training, and all that kind of stuff that we require them to do. We're keeping them to the standards that we need to keep them to. And in some cases, they may be like making less money than somebody that, you know, making a sandwich or flipping burgers or.
Well, again, at the
answering
same
telephone.
time, in the same regard, and I'm not trying to argue, because I don't want you to feel like that.
Right.
We truly can't compare what those people make at that company, because we have no control over how that company mans and operates.
But-
And how they pay.
And I guess what I'm bringing up is, we gotta look at it from the point of view of, we need to get competitive with their salaries so that we can get the people in, because right now, somebody looking for a job, I'm gonna go work 24 hours at a time, or I'm gonna work 8 hours at a time. I make more money sitting over here working 8 hours a day. You know, there's pros and cons on both sides of it.
So we just want to get that out there, so that number's out there. You know, that's probably going to be pretty close. And I realize that we're only 3 months into the fiscal year, but I'm trying to do exactly what you've all asked. Let you know way ahead of time, and then come back, as you've all said, come back with the details. But these are the rough costs, because we're already at 408,000.
What do you guys be asking the county for?
So the county is formula-based.
Oh, yeah.
So the county has really stepped up to the plate all across the board. They've increased the run per call rate. I did not bring that whole chart. It is very complicated. It's not as simple as what I told you. It's not $1,000. It's in-town rate, out-of-town rate, transport rate, refusal rate, well, that's capital. Number of people you have on the payroll, supplement, the 2 EMT supplement, the AOS supplement. We are trying to, I've been tasked with working with the Deputy Chief Administrative Officer, Ms. Savage, on getting that a little cleaner as it
Can
can
you
work.
tell us what they provided last year?
So last year was, no, I can do this year a little better. So this year, you were talking about almost $900,000.
From the county.
Yeah, from the county. I think it was like 925 in operating and 75, and they increased their capital to 75,000. So, and you'll see that on this next chart. So they have stepped up because we've done the same thing we're doing here. We've talked about the cost. We've talked about, as Chief Rowe just said, we've had to stay competitive. That's one of our homework assignments from last Thursday. I've got to update the chart to them of what each company pays from Pocomoke to Bishopville, because there's some of the companies who are non-municipal, and even 2 of the municipal that are struggling. You know, we're paying much more
And
now.
what are you going to ask us for capital?
So capital, so here you go on the capital. So this was the update of the sheet, and I guess if you can leave one for, Mr. Orris have a mailbox somewhere. So this is an update from the worksheet that you all said you liked before, or at least Mr. Burrell said he liked it, the cash flow. So the county has increased their capital for the ambulance replacement to $75,000, $25,000 per unit. So I just work backwards, like we always do in the town budget, to get this to work out, to go through 2 ambulance replacement cycles. You'd be talking $52,500 July 2024, to answer his direct question. And then for 25, $52,500, that gets the ambulance that's coming in July 2025 that has been ordered, contract is signed, that gets that paid for, and then we start saving for the next one. But then we have to get the town to at least match the county, 75,000. And the cause, to go back to, so we don't get confused, the justification for that is our calls are actually 60% in town and 40 out. So this is a 50-50 split for the ambulances. So we're not asking for any more, it's a 50-50 split, that's what the county is. And that makes the spreadsheet sort of work. You get down there to that bottom and you're negative 306, but I didn't carry it out further to bring it back to the positive. But that gets us through 2 ambulance replacement cycles, showing that it definitely gets us through 1 cycle. We've got 1 ordered, another one due in 27, another due in 29. As you recall, if I can refresh your memories, we did look at what the council asked us to look at, 12, 13-year replacement all you're doing then is making the ambulances undependable and the maintenance cost triples. But when you get past that 10 years, it's just like something clicks. You start having electrical problems, start having chassis motor problems, transmission problems, light problems. And it's not only about the money, it's the dependability. The ambulance has got to be there. If we don't have the ambulance, we can't come to you.
So if I'm adding this right, all in, your total ask between fire and EMS is $875,000.
I'm just going to have to agree with you because I didn't add it to the
Right.
together.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Substantial increase over
Yes, it is.
what we provided.
So while we're on that, my little letter A, and I know, and I don't mean to surprise something on your head of your finance director or your auditor's report,
Little letter A?
the little letter A that says funds remaining FY 22-23.
Wait.
So the way the contract was written is for the EMT funds, we had to detail it every hour of payroll for 2 people, and we did that. I will tell you that is tedious, but we did it, and that's fine. Not complaining about it, we did it. But we had $8,884.08 of that $125,000 that we did not ask for because we couldn't ask for it. We had one of our EMTs didn't have health insurance. So that's gonna fall down to your guys' bottom line, with your audit report and your budget report and all that. We'd like to ask for that funding after you get your audit report and that's verified. And we'd like to put it in this, either in this two places, whatever you all would decide. If you consider putting it in this, on that spreadsheet, in this ambulance replacement account, that would then drop your 52,000 down by 8, since you already have it budgeted. Or help us put it in, start getting our EMS contingency fund back together. We have got to get that back. As you can see on that first spreadsheet I sent you, passed around, we, with the $829,000 that we have, I don't want to use the word cut, whatever word you want to use, if you go back to FY12, the way we stayed open is we burnt through all our contingency funds. So
you're asking for the balance of what we didn't expend on the 125, and you want to be able to use it for capital operating?
And we'll let you all decide, either
Yeah.
capital operating, and that would reduce the request
On
for
the
next
EMS
year
then.
on the EMS, or let us put it in and let us get started with a contingency fund back. So if I'm mistaken, I will stand corrected. Looking online, looks like the mayor and council approved a contingency fund policy of 20% of the general account budget. So if we follow that mantra, if you will, our EMS budget is 1.9 million. 20% of that, we should have $385,000 in our contingency fund. Right now, we have 0. I expect that to change in the next 2 weeks. On the financial reports you all have been getting, you have seen an account that says HHS contingency with 59,000 and some change in it. I did the last report in June, and I've not gotten the email back for September, so if they don't ask for any more reports, the federal government, that money will be ours. So that'll be the start of our contingency fund. But we've got to have something there with the ambulance, because if one of these motors or something blows up in the ambulance, we have no place. I mean, we just don't have any place. We'd have to take it out of the budget somewhere and start having open shifts, and no overtime shifts. That's what we've had to do before in the past. You know, not 4 people up there, there are going to be 3. Somebody takes off on vacation, so be it. We don't want to do that. That's not giving the service that we've committed to our residents in that town, regardless, to have 2 crews there. So that's for your consideration. Like I said, you can wait till your finance director and your audit report comes back to verify those numbers.
I mean, I think that's very reasonable. It's on our budget. If we could mitigate the EMS capital,
Yeah.
that would seem to be I'm not really honestly, whichever one, really.
It's already been budgeted, right?
Yeah.
So again, you can.
But I do believe determining where it should go should be your responsibility.
Okay, well, it would be one of those, but there's gotta be, I think there's gotta be a talk about
Yeah.
that. Because if you don't think you can get to 52,500 next year, I think you need to tell us that and say, so-and-so, Mr. President, Mr. Treasurer, Mr. EMS Captain, or Miss, we don't think we're gonna get to 52.5, you need to put that in the ambulance replacement fund, so I get you, but I think you.
Again, a conversation.
Yeah, conversation. Yeah, because if you think you can get to the 52.5, it's okay to put it in contingency then.
When would you want to hear about that?
Well, I don't know what rules you all follow.
Yeah.
We're not really going to be discussing budget.
Yeah.
Well, but you'll be discussing what to do with when they come back with your money from your audit report, you have to allocate that money somewhere.
Yeah.
Right,
Surplus, you have to tell your staff what to do with that money.
sure.
So you all will be deciding probably in the next 60 days, I would think.
So we'll be getting the audit report in November, December, sometime like that.
So,
So we have time.
yep, you have time, but I just wanted to let you know it was there. If you need a more formal letter, I'm glad to do that.
I think that would be helpful,
Okay.
Yes,
making a request.
Yep.
yeah.
Mary, that's, get the letter, just making that.
Yeah,
request.
it should be something more
Okay.
formal, yeah. You can't make a motion and vote in this setting, so.
No. Well, and you can't till you get your audit.
Yeah.
And I understand that, I
Okay.
work for government. So the other capital costs that we have, and you'll get that chart, by December, we always have it in early.
Just so we are on the same page. This meeting needs to end at 8.
Okay, I don't know, tell me what time.
You got 15 minutes, well, more like 13.
Okay.
13.
So the number 3, just to remind you, and you all will get that whole spreadsheet well before December, even though the contract says December, we always have it a month ahead of time, is the other capital cost. And that's like our heart monitors and our stair chairs and the breathing devices. So you'll see that on your report. And we can discuss that at the November, December, getting to the meat and potatoes at the next meeting. I did the same exercise for the EMS that we did for the fire, talking about the tax rates. And 3. So I did the same exercise. So for EMS, currently at $408,000, the taxpayers of Berlin, 7.6 cents of their tax dollar is going toward EMS, with again 48 cents of police. If you went up to the 450 next year, it would be 8.3 cents of their tax, real estate property tax going. And then I flipped it over on the other side, did the same thing, 1440 for police. It'd be $227.70 of their, if they had a $300,000. Again, just information, so that when we're talking to taxpayers, like everybody said, hey, here's where your tax dollars go. You're paying your tax bill, here's what you're getting, and here's where we're divvying it up. So impact fees, I already gave you that spreadsheet. So again, we can square foot per unit, that type of thing. And most of the time, the impact fees are to capital. So we can do a same type of spreadsheet. We can take that 1.5 million, divide it by 2, and where I got 1.5 million ambulances is probably $500,000 a piece. 3 ambulances, 1.5. Divide that in half county, half town, and then do math to see how much that would be per parcel for the town, or do some math on how much a residence would pay versus a commercial fee did it by square footage. Just, I need some help on that from either town staff or the assessment office or somebody. We can do that exercise. Plan development reviews, you're getting copies of that. And again, what our ambulance captain concentrates on is movement of the patient. When you build these houses, one of the things I can think of, the development on the east side, the multifamily, they had no place for the ambulances really to park. Everything was jammed right up in there. How are you going to get the patient out through cars when they're all parked up in front and that type of thing? So that's the comments that we hope is helpful, and that's the purpose of the comments. It's not that we're against development. We'll tell the public listening or listen tomorrow, and developers. None of those reports are negative about development. They're just factual what does the chief need?
In order for you all to be able to do your
Do
job
your job, and
effectively.
what do the ambulance people
For
need
sure.
to do their job, and that's just not, and we thank you for that opportunity, because it is helpful, and we've been putting a paragraph on there, if you've read them, about the impact fees. So those people who are not at the end getting approved, but they're at the beginning, like the gentleman on the east side,
Yeah.
hey, those impact fees might get blessed off by you folks before he gets it built. So he needs to be ready to write that check.
That's why the streets in Salt Lake City are so wide.
Uh,
The mood train, they needed to be able to turn.
Yeah, so that's really all we had on the EMS.
So, question for you on so you were very fortunate to receive a grant, correct?
Congratulations.
For,
Most recently, you received a grant for the heart monitor, yes?
No, for
so
the breathing.
Breathe down.
so jumping back to the fire company.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Right.
what about the fire company?
So-
But we have an outstanding matter, right, that we need to address with that, right, as far as, because the grant was received.
So that's what we'll come back to, probably in about 60 days.
Okay.
The fire company gave the administration, and I'll tell you what, it is not a top secret thing. We've got the list just last Monday from the chief of the equipment. We are tasked with what pots of money
Yeah.
that needs to come out of to keep us going down the right track. So, and that, some of that stuff has to be bid out, the prices, the chief got rough prices. So once we get our quotes, we know we're talking, because stuff is all over the board.
Okay.
We've got to get hard quotes from the vendors, committed to 60-day quotes, and then the administration was tasked with dividing that up. So give us 60 days, and we'll come back. So don't put those funds somewhere else.
No,
Because
I know that's.
we will definitely be making a presentation
And
for
we still
that.
may have to shell out some money for the air package, but we don't know.
Yeah,
Details.
well, we know we'll have some sort of small match. It'll probably be about $20,000.
What was the amount of the grant? I forgot.
399 and some 399 something, just a little under 400.
Gary, when do we have to expend those ARPA funds? When's the final date?
So 2024?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's moving along. I'm not gonna give you a specific, because I'm not that sure.
Yeah, so, I mean, I know it because I help all the counties with it. So December 2024, it has to be officially allocated, and by December of 2026, the product has to be in hand.
But if you didn't have another specific need for equipment, we could just allocate that to the general capital fund.
I would think
Well,
so.
I'll tell you the truth, that's where I was going with it, but I wanted to.
Yeah, then you could use it at will, right,
Mhm.
for capital.
Or to even put towards your,
Yeah, but we have to have the stuff to send to you, because you're going to get a federal audit, so there still has to be a plan.
It's not as much,
It's not that
we
easy.
can't just hand it over to them and say, there, we expended it.
Yeah.
There's gotta
So
be
like
a
the-
product,
so
there's
like-
has to show. Yeah.
Yes, so like the 80,000 that you've moved over to operating,
Right.
I'm gonna have to detail that out and give that to the town,
Right.
because you're gonna have a single federal audit. You already put that in your budget,
Yeah.
I'm sure, for a
Mhm.
single federal audit.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm waiting for an answer that may affect our budget,
Right.
because with the money you're giving us and the 400,000, it puts us over the 500,000 to 500,000 of the trigger.
Yeah.
We may have to do a federal audit as well.
Because even though it's a pass-through to them, it's still the
Right.
receipt
Even
of
though
federal
the
funds.
spec is for fire and safety, that's one of the things that can,
Right.
it can't be just,
Willy-nilly, it's not supposed to be for reoccurring costs.
Small business owners, so much easier.
no, man, just,
Yeah.
Like I said, we're in the middle of our audit and review. My head is busting every night with homework from the accountant and what have you.
that federal audit costs a lot of money.
Well,
It does.
Jay Berge told us, for us, he said probably 10 grand, might be 10 grand for us to, because see, we get county ARPA funds too, so when you add all those federal funds together, even though we're sub-grantees, depends who interprets the rule. As he told me.
that little tiny notebook is cute.
Oh, that's actually my calendar book.
Oh,
So we know your perfect world scenario, or not perfect world, but what you all need, we have a number now.
And we're gonna get into the meat and potatoes
But,
to explain
yes,
the
Yeah.
meat and potatoes.
explain the meat and potatoes, and please don't forget to include Station 3. So everybody will know how all that fits in and what is the basis for your request. That'll work.
Excellent meeting, gentlemen. This
I'm real, now I'm looking forward to December.
So we'll have to look at our calendar, because I did look ahead.
December.
So do we need to be more realistic about this, because that meeting said an hour. Didn't it say that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's,
40, it was intended to be 45 minutes per,
Wednesday, December 20th at
Topic.
6 PM.
yeah, but
And then I have down here March the 20th at 6 PM. And I
December the
have
what?
June the 3rd at 6 PM.
so, and I talked to Ms. Sarah on the telephone, so we had 19 emails going
Do
back
you,
and forth.
listen, my ASL is
The
real
chief's gonna
good.
have to find out where his chief
You read
meeting
what I'm
is,
putting down?
because they're usually